Okay, we're going to talk about a solution to a problem with cultural diversity, mainly the economically disadvantaged students. So, first, if you'll introduce yourselves.
I am Ethan. I'm a history teacher.
I'm Morgan. I'm a nurse, a member of the community.
I'm Tiana. I'm a school counselor.
My name is Timothy Lay. I'm a math teacher.
Okay, thank you. I did my research project at our campus with the kids there, and 20% of them are economically disadvantaged. So that means about 300 of our kids are. And, we can't see that when we look at our Skyward, but they are the kids with free or reduced lunches. So you can kind of tell, and you kind of know in your classes which ones are and which ones aren't. And I kind of compared the ones that are involved in school activities to the ones who are not. So the ones that kind of have the extra support at school to the ones that don't. And you two are UIL leaders, so you can maybe tell the difference in some of your kids that you have, that you see extra and mentors a little more in class than the ones that you don't see extra. But I thought we began to talk about our mentor program that we currently have in place. How do you feel about that?
The mentor program was designed with best intentions, and over the years it has slowly been implemented very poorly. It was designed so that you would have the same students, see them several times a year, from their freshman all the way to their senior year. But as our teacher retention rate changes, the students always needed to get a new teacher if the teacher moves. And now it's gotten to the point where we essentially get new students for the mentor program every single year. And so we don't learn any of them, and we see them about any of their names. We see them about 6 times a year.
6 times a year, 10 minutes time.
Yeah, 10 minutes at a time. So it's kind of hard. You hand them out the report cards, and some people will highlight failing grades and talk to them, or maybe hit the freshmen in particular if their grades aren't doing so hot.
I think in theory it's a good idea, but there's been, like Ethan was saying, a lack of consistency, so it's really not as effective as it could be. And I know that that's something that was brought up that they're aware of and trying to fix, but I think there's so many factors pinning into it with teacher turnover and scheduling changes. I know scheduling is always a mess, and so sometimes I think that we need to figure out what to do in order to make that mentor program work, because in theory a lot of those kids could benefit from a mentor, especially those economically disadvantaged kids, because they need support at school. And so somehow we need to try and figure out how to fix that. And it kind of goes across the board, like from teachers to admin to the counselors. It's kind of a problem across the board that we all kind of need to figure out.
Have y'all ever heard a kid saying that they liked our mentor program?
No, they pretty much complain about it.
I don't think they care too much. You just come in, sit down, here's your report card.
Give them 10 minutes to
See you
out of
later.
class,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, the kids in my mentor class, I don't hear them complain about it because they don't know you. But the kids in the other class, the one right afterwards, and they say, why do we have to go to this? It's stupid. My math test had to be 3 minutes shorter because they cut everything out. Stuff like that.
That makes a difference.
And you really don't get to develop a relationship with the parents either, because you know the kids all of 10 minutes. So I think that's another problem, is that you can't really, you can call the parents and call home, but it doesn't really help if it's Ethan 9 weeks and then it's me another, and then it kind of defeats the purpose of having a mentor.
And you also can't answer any of their questions about their grades because you don't have them.
And just put them in touch with the teacher who theoretically already called them about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all have any ideas for a better mentor program?
I think the first couple years it wasn't near as problematic because they were I had the same students for 2 years in a row, and I was starting to get to know them a little better. But then they just started changing it every single year because we had. And I asked why, and they said because we have so many new teachers, it was a problem. So it was easier just to get them in there. And then have you noticed in the Skyward they still have the old
teachers.
mentors in there? Like some of them that haven't worked there for 3 years, like mentor teacher and be
Mhm.
so and so. They don't work here anymore.
Mhm.
That's what I feel this for.
Yeah.
I get it now.
But as a community member and a mother, what would you want out of a mentor program for your child?
I feel like it would be really helpful if they could meet with the mentor teacher, obviously for a longer period of time. Maybe if they could carve out once every so often, more than just for report cards, or maybe a meeting every once in a while so that the parents can get to know the mentor and get a feel for who the mentor is and get a personal relationship with them so that they had someone that they could go to for problems, because the counselors are probably very busy and don't have time to see everyone, and this could be like a second to a counselor, like a person they could go to.
And that's a good idea. I think somebody did bring something like that up where you, instead of just having one night that's kind of like a meet the teacher night, where a lot of the problem is a lot of our, I think our students' parents work a lot, especially those who are hourly or a lot of our lower income kids. Those are the parents that I don't see because they can't come in. And so I can't remember who it was. Somebody proposed like, well, what if we have, every 9 weeks or something, just a day when parents can come in and talk to us. It's kind of like an open door thing where if they couldn't make it last time, maybe they can make it this time. So it's not just that one day.
I mean, that sounds nice, but is that really enough? We don't need a mentorship program to have that, right?
Well, you need someone consistent that knows that particular student. So a mentor program ideally would put that in place, because it's one consistent person as opposed to a whole bunch of teachers who maybe don't know the student as well.
The couple times I've seen the mentor program work, it wasn't necessarily that I was helping a student out with their problem because they didn't feel comfortable coming to me, but it would be I would call a parent, about the student's grades, and they would mention something about a teacher or a class that they couldn't get in, and I could facilitate them talking to a counselor or somebody, which is something you would think is should be on everyone's list that they would do that themselves, but it did help. They had no idea who their student's counselor or AP or teacher was, and so I was able to just CC them and say, all right, here's their information, and in 5 years I've solved a couple problems that way, but that's pretty much it.
I mean, what we're discussing now, what we're talking about right now, sounds more like a homeroom teacher than a mentor.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying. I mean, the homeroom teacher system is fine too. It's not really the same as what we would think, or at least what I would think of when you say mentor.
Mhm.
Right?
Well, since you can't hire anyone else, I think the homeroom, it could be sort of synonymous, homeroom/mentor. Like it has to serve the same purpose because you don't have extra people to hire. So, I mean, it is kind of a homeroom in a way because that's where you get your report cards and stuff like that.
So when I did my research paper, mentors that I referred to were people like coaches or UIL directors, club sponsors, and band directors, theater teachers, stuff like that, where kids actually spend more time with them and probably see them every day. So that our mentor system now kind of is all of our students, but I focused on those economically disadvantaged kids and compared like their test scores, their absences, like their semester averages, and then I even looked at the kids that were like in Avid to see if that helped. And you helped with Avid last year, right?
Mhm.
So, how do you think the Avid program affects like kids in general, not just economically disadvantaged, but as a whole? Or are most of the kids in there economically disadvantaged?
That's one of the criteria that they look at, like single parent homes. if they are the first in their family to go to college, things like that, what their parents do for a living. In working with the students and in talking to them, I know that they feel a great deal of support being in the AVID program. And I think a lot of it does have to do with the teacher because she provides a lot of support for those kids and they know that they can go to her for anything. And because they have somebody to advocate for them, I think that's why some of them may not have been as successful academically as they are now because they have somebody to kind of guide them and advocate for them, help them. And in a lot of cases, it's not just academically; it's like emotionally. And I think that it's been beneficial for those kids, at least from what they've told me.
The kids that were in AVID that I chose from our research, they did have increased attendance that were in AVID, and their averages increased like over the years. So it did show there. I don't have my data from this past year, but the last 2 years it showed improvement.